years ago.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live co-host, NBC Football Night in America, and the mob novel set in 1973 entitled Father of Mine, available as an ebook for just $3.99 on Amazon. Mike joins us on the program. All right, let me start with 18-game regular season. What has to happen for that to happen in the NFL?
Well, the union has to agree to it, first and foremost, because the union initially didn't want 17 games, but once they developed the impression that the league would lock the players out to get to 17 games, then prior union leadership came up with a deal that was a win-win for the players. You look at where the salary cap is right now, that's one of the benefits of agreeing to play 17 games. This current labor deal goes until the end of the decade. I think that's when the NFL starts making the push for 18. And the reason that it hit my radar screen last week, I mean, when you're immersed in the NFL at the scouting combine for 4 or 5 days, you pick some things up. Andrew Berry, the GM of the Browns on PFT Live, said that they're proposing a delay of the trade deadline by 2 weeks, one to account for the 17th game and one in anticipation of an 18th game, which got our attention. I started talking to some other people, and they're like, yeah, it's just a matter of time before the NFL tries to get 18 games.
But it can't happen until the, 2030?
It can in theory. That's one of the things that I think becomes a misconception about the union NFL relationship. They can come up with any agreement they want at any time for anything. They can have side letters. They can rip up the CBA and write a new one whenever they want. They basically did it for COVID. They came up with a new CBA within the CBA when they were trying to figure out how to deal with the financial losses and the impact there. They could do it whenever they want. But I think the best time to fully squeeze the players to go along with it, if you're the league, would be when this CBA expires. But you can't rule out the possibility of an acceleration. They want 18. They've wanted 18 for years. Yeah. They settled for 17.
The onside kick, or change it, or I should say the kickoff and the onside kick, what is based in reality here?
Well, the NFL wants to make the kickoff a viable play again. At this point, just put the ball at the 25, for crying out loud. Super Bowl, with all those scores and deep into overtime, there was no kickoff return the entire game. It's at the point where they just bang it out of the end zone and off it goes. They want to make it viable. This proposal, and there's multiple different reporters who have put it out there, it's just a matter of time before the league announces it, kickoff from the opponent's 40. The ball has to hit between the goal line and the 20. You've got most of the players packed together like the XFL did, where they're 5 or 10 yards apart and they're just kind of stationary like electric football. Wait, that's what I like about it. It's like the old electric football game. They're all just waiting there for the kid to turn the thing on. At least they won't run in circles when they do. But they want more returns. And this will cause more returns. There will rarely be touchbacks. The only thing I don't like is it takes away the surprise onside kick. One of the most compelling plays in football, Super Bowl 44. The Steelers tried it in Super Bowl 30 and failed. I love the surprise onside kick. That goes away permanently because you can only do an onside kick when you're trailing in the fourth quarter and you have to declare it ahead of time.
That is interesting that you're going to go, hey, we're going to have an onside kick here, guys. And everybody knows there. But you still have to give the team the opportunity to do that, don't you?
Yeah, if the team is trailing. And 10 years or so ago, Roger Goodell was asked who he roots for. He says, I root for the team that's behind. They want the games to be exciting. They want the team that's trailing by multiple scores to have a chance to get back into the game. So you have to have it on the table. I like the surprise onside kick. Yeah. I just like that curveball that can be thrown out there. I mean, maybe that's what that'd be a good way to start overtime in the postseason. Not that you can anymore if they pass this rule. Just do a surprise onside kick. If you recover it, all you got to do is score a field goal and you win the game. So I don't like that it might go away, but I do like that they're trying to find a way to reinvigorate the kickoff.
Mike Evans re-signs with Tampa, 2-year deal. That do anything to the marketplace?
Well, I think what it does, first of all, it shows the value of tampering. Most of the time we think tampering hurts the team that's trying to keep a player. When you have the week of the scouting combine and the agents meet with the teams, the agent for the player that's thinking about leaving the team he's been with for 10 years finds out what else is out there or what else isn't out there. All of a sudden that offer from the team that wants to keep him looks better and they get a deal done. And I think it also tells us they know they're keeping Baker Mayfield. I don't think Mike Evans signs that deal without knowing that they're going to have a quarterback that can deliver the football to him. That was one of his priorities. I think the next shoe to drop will be Baker Mayfield agreeing to terms, and then maybe they apply the franchise tag by tomorrow afternoon's deadline to Antoine Winfield Jr.
Any other rule change? The fumble out of the end zone, that's dead?
Dead. Troy Vincent, it was funny. He was on with us last week, and he said when that came up at the competition committee meeting, one of the owners just said, move on. Move on. So they moved on. It's not going anywhere.
Dang. Any other possible rule changes? Anything else discussed?
Well, two things I think worth mentioning. We've known about the hip drop tackle. There's like a 20 times injury rate when you get the grab and the twist and the fall down on the player's legs. So that's something they want to take out of the game. The challenge is crafting a rule that can be properly and easily enforced. The other thing, too, is this notion of intentional grounding being further limited. You know, if you're out of the pocket, if you get the ball to the line of scrimmage or beyond, it's not intentional grounding. They're thinking about taking away intentional grounding if you're in the pocket and you just throw the ball past the line of scrimmage, making it easier for quarterbacks to bail out, reducing the number of hits on quarterbacks and making sure that more of them are healthy, unlike that rash of injuries we saw this year.
Run us through the calendar of March so the audience knows what to expect.
Tomorrow is the deadline for applying the franchise tag. That's the next big signpost. Next Monday at noon, free agency starts. Now, they call it the legal tampering period, and free agency technically starts Wednesday at 4 Eastern. It starts Monday at noon. That's when the teams are allowed to call the agents or the players directly if they're representing themselves and start making offers. Not that they haven't already, but that's when they can reach agreements in principle. We'll start to see reports about who's signing where. And what happens, Dan, let's say I'm looking for a quarterback and 12 o'clock noon hits next Monday. What happens is the team picks up the phone, calls the agent, and says, I want your guy. Here's what I'm offering. I need to know right away whether this guy wants it because I got the second guy on my list I got to call, and the third guy, and the fourth guy, and they run through it until they get someone. That's why the Bears need to trade Justin Fields if they're going to do it and take Caleb Williams, because the seats are going to start filling up next Monday at noon Eastern.
But if you saw like Kirk Cousins going someplace or Baker Mayfield going someplace, does that change the complexion of what's going to happen? Do any of these quarterbacks change the draft?
Well, all the dust is going to settle on free agency in advance of the draft. And you may have teams thinking, if we can get this veteran, then we're less interested in a quarterback in the draft. I think we know, like the teams at the very top, with the Bears, the Commanders, and maybe the Patriots, quarterback. After that, it's going to be driven by need and whether and to what extent these teams address the need in free agency. And then there's always the chance, and we see this every year, a team signs a free agent, he's the starter, they hold up the jersey, they sell a bunch of the jerseys, and then we find out first round of the draft, he's not going to be the starter for very long because that same team drafted a guy with the 10th or 11th overall pick.
Which quarterback came out best at the combine?
Well, I mean, Michael Penix Jr. had the best workout of the guys who did work out, but I think it was a win for Caleb Williams. He's already the top prospect. If he conducted himself in the interviews with the teams the way he did when he sat with Chris Sims and me on Friday, and you can see the full interview at the NFL on NBC YouTube page, he gets it. He gets it. He views quarterbacking as a craft. He's already planning for ways to get better at it. He just understands exactly what it takes to be successful. And look, I mean, it sounds like a joke. The Bears haven't had a true franchise quarterback since Sid Luckman. I think after everything we saw and heard last week, they're going to move on from Justin Fields, and they're going to roll their dice with Caleb Williams, and they may end up with a guy who's up in that conversation before too long with Mahomes and Josh Allen.
Always good stuff, Mike. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Dan. See you, buddy.
Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk Live, co-host, NBC Football Night in America Insider.